Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, we have a lot of people here waiting already. I thought we were going to have to wait for people to get in here. Thank you for joining us. We're going to wait just another minute for people to come in. You might be able to see a quick screen share, and you might even be able to see our screens in the corner. But make sure that you share the link so your friends and family can join us. And we will get started in just a second. In the live chat, let us know where you're from, and we'll go over some rules in just a second once we hop on. So we'll be right back. All right, guys, we are going to go ahead and get started. Let me pull up my screen here. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We're really excited about this. I see everyone is in the chat. You are up and going, letting us know where you're from. That's exciting. We have people from all over the place, from Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, California, Alabama, and Texas so far. That's really awesome. Oop, hold on. Let me turn my volume down real quick. Okay, let's make sure everyone is on here. All right, guys. So real quick, the recording of this interview is also going to be on our podcast. So for those listening to the podcast, it might be a little bit weird, but if you want to go watch the replay, you can watch it on YouTube. So all right, I have the great pleasure of welcoming Mr. Dr. Theron Hutton with us today. Theron is the founder and medical director for Mulberry Clinics in Spring Hill, Tennessee. If you joined us for the Tennessee event, you may have actually seen him speak, and he had a wonderful presentation at the Tennessee event. He's a board-certified family medicine physician and certified practitioner of the Institute of Functional Medicine. He has a passion for helping people live their lives in healthy and thoughtful ways. And he believes it's important to treat our bodies with care. After all, we only get one, and to utilize nutrition and supplementation to feel our best. So, welcome, Theron. Thanks for joining me today. How are you doing?
Yeah, thank you. Doing well. Thank you for having me. We're doing awesome.
Good. So for those of you who don't know, Theron is also joining us at the Virginia event. So if you're coming to that event, you can certainly listen to his lectures there. And also for those watching on YouTube, there's bunches of boxes beside me. Just pay attention, act like they're not even there. All right. Well, Theron, let's get started. How about you tell us a little bit about you and your story and your background and how you got started and what you do?
Yeah, thanks. Well, thanks for having me. Sure, I'll share a little bit about. I'll make a pretty long story as succinct as I can. But so, like you said, I am a family physician. I've been practicing for years now. What I do in terms of my practice and profession has changed and sort of grown and morphed and evolved over the years. Right now I do a lot of different things. So we live on 64 acres. I've got a wife, 8 beautiful children, and we, like many of you all your listeners, we're trying to sort of live closer to home and closer to the land and take care of the land and the things that we've been given and eat things that are, produced locally and seasonally and all those things. But it didn't necessarily completely start out that way for us. I mean, we always had sort of those inclinations, but through a long steps involving health and learned along the way. Just fortify desire to do that. And so it's interesting. A lot of people, I'll actually know people for months or years before they know that I'm a physician. I don't just, it's just part of who I am. I don't necessarily walk around and introduce myself as Dr. Hutton. It's part of me, but I just, I guess after talking to somebody for a short time, you learn what's important to them. So I end up usually talking about my family or farming or homesteading or community things. Right. And then I started out with a science and natural upbringing. My dad was a science teacher, and we always went camping, and he would take us on hikes and sort of talk about the things that have been created and how cool they are. And I remember walking along trails and looking at flowers and little ferns, and he'd flip them over and talk about how the ferns got little spores out. A lot of funness for outdoors. I had the sense that I just felt better outside. I, like a lot of kids, I did watch my share of TV sitting on the couch growing up, but certainly have the best memories of camping and being outside. And so that propelled me into my career in science. And so I started in the sciences with some direction as I went to college. And then just along the way, made some different friends and acquaintances and was led down this path to medicine, which was pretty new to me. I tell people it's funny that I ended up in medicine because I don't know that I don't remember maybe going to the doctor once growing up. I don't know that it was any reason my folks did that. It just wasn't on their radar. I think I went once to get stitches, and that's about it. And even honestly, even going into med school, I literally had to learn the difference between like Tylenol and ibuprofen.
Right.
Which is for came at it with real fresh eyes, and which I had probably developed a slightly different perspective on things than some people would. That medicine or conventional medicine was a big part of their family history, which it wasn't in mine. So got into med school and got through it, really learning I needed to thrive and heal and stuff, and sort of didn't probably pay as close attention about all the different medications and all that. I just figured, well, those are going to change by the time I was ready to use them anyway. And so got through med school, and even during med school, still just had this longing to be outside, and certainly probably neglected my own personal health a little bit in med school, with just not eating as well as I could have. But got married, and during med school, I made a couple trips overseas to Africa, and spent a few months there. I started to look at medicine. Because in some of those settings, you quickly learn that it's difficult to approach medicine the way we did in the United States, where it tended to sort of be this, make a doctor's appointment, write a prescription, see people every 3 months, and on average during residency and family practice, we would see people that were on 4, 5, 6 different medications, and there was a lot of constant monitoring for side effects. And then certainly even just getting those medications, as convenient as some of the pharmacies are to us, was just not easy for people to do. And so going to Uganda, I was like, well, that's just not going to work here. That's not sustainable, and people just aren't. It's not. So I actually ended up getting a lot of training in agriculture because at the advice of some older, wiser folks that had been there, like, if you really want to make an impact on people's health, it really has to start with food. And I was like, man, I feel like I've heard that before, sort of like, let food be your medicine. It seems like some pretty old physicians had said things like that before. So I, that really resonated with me, and I was able to then sort of blend my love for medicine and healing and health with my love for sort of outside agriculture, and learn how to put all those together. And so I became actually a certified agriculture instructor.
Oh, that's awesome.
And started working with communities to help them actually. I wasn't going to teach Ugandans how to farm in Uganda. That's ridiculous. But
Right.
what I felt like I could do is use my skills and sort of bringing people together to get them talking, thinking, working together. And really, honestly, I asked a lot of people to teach me. And so when you ask people to teach you, then they'll say, well, this guy knows how to do this, and this guy knows. I was like, well, let's all get together and talk about what it is that we can do in our communities to stay healthy, promote health. And then there you really learn the importance of land. So like, if people don't have land, they can't grow food and they can't be healthy. And it's just a lot of, that's one of the greatest tragedies of war and civil unrest around the world, is that people are driven off their land. We lived an hour north of this huge, I call it an IDP camp, where they had people just from all around the area, basically a refugee camp, but internally displaced. And they had these little like makeshift tents made out of tarps, and they just had, they just were at, they just are at the mercy of the UN just to bring them bags of, flour and rice in there, because they just had no land. They're expert growers. They can grow. It's fertile, and they're amazingly hardworking people, but they were just forced off of their land, and so they were just starving to death because they had no land. And so that's like, man, having a little bit of land is just so incredibly important. And it's a thing that I took for granted, probably until then. So we were there for 5 years in Uganda, and then came back 8 years ago now, and I actually started working for a hospital in a pretty conventional practice. But as you can imagine, it didn't really fit well. I started getting in trouble for spending too much time with my patients and getting behind and talking about nutrition, and
Right.
so, which is, it's their business. They can do what they want. But I just, after not long, realized I just needed to figure out a different way to do this.
Yeah.
Um, and it was, so I went out essentially on my own. I found another buddy that felt a lot like I did, and we shared office space for about a year, and then I was on my own after that. So I just really had to partially reinvent medical practice. There was this model of sort of direct primary care where people just pay me a little bit each month, and then I sort of become their personal doctor, which was appealing to me in a few ways. Just sort of another conversation is just the whole mess with the medical system right now with insurance and all that. But so that was something that I felt like I couldn't continue to be a part of, that mess. And so I just like, well, I feel like I need to operate something with transparency, with, price transparency, and and have a relationship with my patients where what I say to them and the advice that I give them isn't dictated by a third party, whether it be a company, a hospital, an insurance company, or something like that. I had to be in a place where I could be completely honest with people. And it's kind of a bad business model, because really I'm trying to promote independence. So if people come in and I teach them how to do what I do at home, then essentially they don't need me. So I had to come to terms with that. And, I had people say, well, it's really not a good business model to try to promote independence. If they're not dependent on you, then why are they going to keep paying you? I was like, I don't know, but I can't, but I got to do it that way. And so, and really what it does is it compels me to keep learning, because because hopefully my patients trust me. And so, I'm like, well, I'm not going to solve all your health problems for you. That's going to be on you. A good doctor's not going to work harder than their patients are. But what I can do is do research on your behalf and use what I know already and what I'm willing to learn to kind of coach you and guide you. And so we connect with each other regularly, even if they're not sick, and just kind of, I'll give them updates and stuff like that. So that's what I do now. So I spend a lot of my time raising kids, raising a few animals. We've got a big garden that my wife is mostly responsible for. And we just love living on our 64 acres. And we're just, like everybody here, trying to do things more to be at home. I mean, that being said, I've been gone living in a hotel for a week playing baseball. But anyways, but
Yeah. Well,
that's
that's
what.
pretty incredible. That's awesome. So essentially your experience in Uganda helped you understand that there was a better way, even here, to self-sufficiency, not just in food freedom, but health freedom, which is
Yep,
which is really what we're all about too. So you have this office, this doctor's office, essentially, and you do it by membership base. Is that right?
that's right. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So they pay me a month per person or family. And and again, to me, it solves a whole lot of problems for everybody.
Right.
It's affordable, it's predictable, it's transparent. I just give people all that. I say, here's what you get for the membership. You cancel at any time. If it's not helpful to you, just cancel it. It's no big deal. We don't force anybody into a long-term contract.
Right.
I was like, as long as we're helpful to you, just, and I don't want to have to go anywhere, but, so essentially it's almost, it's like a retainer, or just sort of almost like a Patreon model. It's like, I need a little bit of money to have the freedom to do research on your behalf and feed my kids and family. And, here's what I need. And if you think what I offer is valuable, pay me for it. If
Yeah.
not, that's fine.
And so far you're doing great, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, it's been incredible. And I think it's actually grown now. And what I tell my staff is like, we don't peddle medicine, we peddle trust. And that's what people, I think, need right now from so-called healthcare
yeah.
professionals is.
In my experience too, as an herbalist, people don't have the confidence to do
Yep.
home healthcare themselves. And so
Yeah.
you're that medium person where they
Yep.
don't want to go to the hospital or a modern doctor.
Yeah.
And they do trust you. And that's awesome. I
Yeah.
think it's a great business model. Who told you that it was a horrible business model?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, the conventional model, is like, I get you on a medicine, so you have to come back every 3 months and we check labs to make sure your liver's not shot,
Right.
and then refill your prescription. Hopefully we're not heading down that road, but yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's fun. I have a lot of people that, that's what they do. They'll come in, they'll have an earache or something going on, and I'll say, well, and what I tell people is like, my tool bag is just a lot bigger than it would be otherwise, since
Right.
I feel comfortable with oils and herbs and obviously prescriptions as well. And we just, we have a conversation, and, the biggest determinant of whether something's going to work for somebody is honestly whether they believe it's going to work. And
Yeah.
so I have people that are scared to death of prescriptions. So they don't want, they don't even want to talk about it. It sends their heart into palpitations if I mention it. And I say, okay, well, let's see what herbs and oils are going to work. And they feel great about that. And I'll even pull out my bag of dried mullein or something like that and say, here's how you make a tea. I'll write the recipe down, or, here's how you can mix up a couple oils to help with your earache or
Yeah.
whatever. And I'll just do it right there for them and give them that little bit of confidence to do it.
That's awesome. Well, okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. So at the Tennessee event, a lot of people came up to me and they were like, I'm never wearing sunglasses again. And so ever since then, I've had a lot of people talking about that, and then I'll mention it to people. And so I wanted to bring it up here because some people don't understand it. They've heard other people talking about it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that and
Okay.
something people don't really know about?
Sure. Well, it's funny. I almost said it in passing just because I'm like, I'm not sure exactly what this has to do with homesteading, but it is, it's a thing. So to me, I feel like as I've read and researched just sort of the sun in general. And so honestly, what got me going on this was honestly, I was feeling crummy for a while and, um, a number of things, and I started reading just some different books, some of them older, about the sun and how, like, in sanitariums where people had like TB and these chronic illnesses, they had these sun rooms, or basically they would have this quad in the middle of a hospital where every day they would roll the patients out into the sun and they would have their sun treatment. You can find pictures of it online. It's kind of cool. These little kids with TB or other ailments, and they'd put them out in the sun. And then I was like, and then I read some more, and they've just done a lot of research on the benefits of the sun in terms of replenishing red blood cells, and and all the nitric oxide benefits. And there's a guy he used to live in Nashville, Jack Cruz, who's a neurosurgeon, and some people know about him. He's gained a little notoriety, and so I spent about a year trying to read his stuff. He's kind of a genius, so it's really hard to sort through a little bit of his stuff. But then I just started doing a little self experimentation. I always wore nice, sunglasses, fishing and being outside and driving and all this stuff. And I always got sunburn really bad. I'm, fairly pale complected. And then I started doing more research. And again, it is related to farming because, I raised chickens, and I was like, well, the chickens have very, specific sunlight cues that tell them what to do based on what the sun's doing, so
Right.
it tells them when to molt, when to lay eggs, and all this stuff. They know what time of the year it is based on what the sun's doing. And I kind of, as a joke, said, you don't see chickens wearing sunglasses, right?
Right.
And then just more and more. And so I stopped wearing them altogether probably 4 years ago, and I haven't really had a sunburn since. And I should. Like, even 2 days ago, we went outside. I had my shirt off for 5 hours in the intense sun. Got a little pink, but that's it. And started doing what about skin cancer and all this stuff, and really the there's three kind of skin cancers. I won't go too deep in this, but there's melanoma, and then squamous cell, and then basal cell. Well, melanoma is the bad one. Like, people don't want to get melanoma. Well, in fact, there's a little bit of evidence suggests that sun exposure actually reduces your risk of getting melanoma, not increases it. In fact, Australia has started to recommend daily sun exposure to their residents in order to decrease their risk of melanoma, which is pretty
Wow.
high in Australia. So, we're not exactly sure, what causes melanoma, but it's probably not the sun. It doesn't seem like that. In fact, the sun might protect you. So what I tell my patients is, just like, again, a chicken, if you see the sun with your eyes send messages back to your pineal gland in the back of your head that then can, your skin's an organ. It's a very big organ, and it
Right.
responds pretty quickly to what your brain tells it to do. I mean, if you are nervous, your sweat glands open up pretty quickly and you start to sweat. That doesn't take a long time to happen. Or if you're embarrassed, your skin turns red and flushes. And so your brain controls what your skin does very quickly. And it actually can protect your skin from the damaging UV rays of the sunshine, which are actually not that bad. Like, I tell you, the sun is not out to kill you, I promise. Um, um, so if we can get up and watch the sun rise, so there's a bunch of benefits to that. And it's actually, some people have actually improved their vision by doing that, which
Oh,
is
wow.
amazing. And then, but you got to be careful. You got to, be sensible. You don't stare into the sun for a
Right.
long time. It's just a few minutes as the sun's coming up and it's kind of that red. And then in the morning, the sun actually hitting your skin prepares your skin to then have the appropriate protection against the more potentially harmful UV rays during the midday. And then the evening sun repairs any damage that the UV rays may have done to your skin. So I say prepares and then repairs. And then it's that noon sun, that higher incidence sun angle on your body that actually generates your vitamin D and turns your cholesterol into helpful things. And that's difficult for your body to do when you're wearing sunglasses because it's getting signal to your brain that it's dark outside if you have sunglasses on. So it can't modulate what's happening on the surface of your skin very well, which it wants to do. Interestingly, if you're going to wear sunglasses, you probably should wear them inside your house at night. Not outside when it's sunny. So then that improves, again, skin sort of response to sun, but then also helps reset your circadian rhythm. So your melatonin is made in the morning in response to red light coming up. So we think of melatonin as a nighttime hormone, and that's when it is activated, but it's made in the morning in response to the sun coming up. So we make melatonin in the morning and we activate it in the evening. So the way that we activate in the evening is that sun going down so that, that yellow transitioning to orange, transitioning to red sends a signal again to our brain to start activating melatonin because it's now time to get ready to go to sleep. So that's where a lot of people are a little bit more aware of the dangers of blue light in the evenings.
Right.
So that's where people say, well, that's where the red blue light blockers come in. So if you have that intense blue light at night, you're actually turning off your melatonin response and shutting down your circadian rhythm. So that's why the red lights at night are better inside. So that's kind of it's funny that sort of became, I didn't invent that, I promise, but it is funny. My patients will see me and I see them they'll see me coming and they'll like hide their sunglasses.
Oh no.
I'm like, I'm not judging you. I get it. It's fine. It's just, it's just funny.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty incredible. It's been a conversation in our house since Tennessee, and I had heard that before. I don't wear sunglasses anyhow, but I had actually heard Joel talk about it, Joel Salatin, a few times, and so it was really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about that. I really wanted to ask you. A lot of people are looking at their healthcare and they're looking at health freedom in general. And you've been a pretty good advocate for that in your state.
Sure.
What are some recommendations that you might have for people, homesteaders specifically, when it comes to their healthcare and fighting for health freedom? How do they even get started with that? How do they really get their community going and activated for health freedom?
Yeah. Well, so I think there's probably probably three things. I think you have to, I think you have to educate yourself with a wary eye, sort of I think I have just a mildly distrustful sort of personality. Just a healthy dose of skepticism, I think, is good. It's fun to me that things that are going on right now, like I have patients who've always sort of been not sure who to listen to, which is completely understandable, call me and be like, hey doc, we're in, like, we get it now. We see what's going on. I think you just have to ask yourself a few basic questions, like who stands to profit from what I'm being told? I mean, that seems like a pretty easy one. I'll tell somebody something like, don't wear sunglasses. And I'm like, why would I tell you? Like, I gain nothing from that. Like, I don't get to sell you anything by telling you that. And if it doesn't make sense, that's fine. In fact, I might lose you as a patient because it sounds so weird to you, because everyone else in your whole world, the eyeglass salesman, your ophthalmologist, your optometrist, your dermatologist, are all telling you to wear them. Why would I say something different? It makes me look stupid. and I gain nothing from it. So if somebody is out there telling you something different from people who are profiting from telling you a certain story, at least listen, at least pay attention to it. Doesn't mean they're right. I could be completely wrong, but I think that's an important starting point is figure out who you can trust and why. And the people who and the problem is, as human beings, we are inclined to trust people that we see more often on television, on the internet, including me. Like, don't trust me just because I'm on this podcast. Like, investigate. But so who is making money off of what they're telling you? And then what do they stand to gain from telling you what they're telling you? And then how are they 100% certain? I mean, if they sound completely certain about what they're telling you, I can just be very careful, because it's really difficult in science, in health and medicine, to be certain about anything. It's very difficult to prove anything is true. So a healthy dose of humility, I think you should be listening for that as well. And I'm the most humble person that you'll ever meet. That's a Bible joke. So humility, and then who's profiting from what they're telling you, I think are big ones. And then educate yourself. And like, it bugs me. It just always rubbed me the wrong way when I'd hear colleagues say, like, well, my medical degree is, more than your Google, whatever. Right. I don't even know what the thing that they always say is, but I'm like, that's not true. Like, that is an argument of authority, and that's a logical fallacy. Just because you have an MD after your name does not mean you know everything. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean you always make rational choices. Like, doctors are some of the most irrational people I've ever met, because they are beholden to these groups that have given them permission to practice medicine. And they either have to, like, be in line with them or step out of line with them and risk a lot. They might have to risk their job. They might have to risk their loans that they've taken out. There's a great deal, insurance. I mean, who knows? There's a great deal to lose by not being lockstep with, these authorities that give me the privilege of practicing medicine. Yeah. And I had a friend post one time. He said, I'm biased about many things, but I'm not biased about medicine, about healthcare. And I'm like, that's one of the most biased things you could say. Like, that, you don't even see the irony in saying you're not biased. Like, you have to be. Like, everybody's biased about that. You just, if you're lucky, you kind of know what your biases are. But if somebody says they're not biased, that's, run away. Right. They are. I mean, they just showed they are. So, and then get organized. And, and it sounds almost like, you're beating a drum, but you've got, like, the people that run your state or your county or whatever, they just want to have a job. I mean, they just want to have a job, and they'll do whatever you want. I mean, ultimately, if they feel the vast majority of people are wanting food freedom and healthcare freedom, they will respond to that. I mean, they will. So, yeah. I mean, people have to vote with, I mean, you have to vote with your pocketbook. Where are you spending your money? And you've got to tell you got to start locally. I wouldn't go to, like, don't write Joe Biden and tell him what you want. He doesn't care. But you go to your local city council, you go to the mayor, you go to your town council, you go to your town mayor. And one of the things we're going to start doing in Spring Hill is we're going to put the pressure on our local city council to get rid of the city using Roundup. I mean, It's ridiculous how much Roundup they spray everywhere, in our waterways, in our, all over the stream beds. It's just, and so I start by stopping my truck and pulling over and say, hey man, I just noticed you spraying all that stuff. Just wondering, what, if you know what you're doing, if you, be real nice about it. But, now when they see me coming, they run the other way. But you got to start there, and, and then you just have to be persistent. So you got, figure out who to trust, be organized. I guarantee I hate to stigmatize. It's usually moms that really get fired up about this stuff. I mean, the men are happy to do it, but find a few people. I mean, it's great to get men involved too if you can. I mean, to get your husbands involved, but get organized. Get a few people who really can take the lead on organizing these things, and go to the city council meetings, go to the school board meetings, go to the whatever meetings, and just say, look, the evidence is there. This is what we need to do, and be assertive and be kind, but be assertive about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a question we get a lot, and my reply is often you really have to be active. You
Yeah,
can't just sit around and wait for somebody else to do it.
yeah, you have to be a squeaky wheel.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Jumping back to the sunglasses thing real quick. So this is a question my husband had too. So the first question was that someone has to wear prescription sunglasses or else it hurts their eyes.
Yep.
And my oldest son and my husband both have blue eyes, and they have said something similar, that their eyes hurt when they're outside when it's bright sun. So what do you recommend?
Yeah, I have blue eyes too, very fair complected. Like, I haven't been outside. I mean, I'm a little pink now, but I'm very fair complected. I have blue eyes, Northern European ancestry, and my eyes have accommodated, honestly. I'm not saying like stay out in the heat of the day I mean, go find some shade or put a shirt on or a hat or something, but your eyes will accommodate. Again, your body is an amazingly adaptable thing. And as you spend time outside, I promise your eyes will get
Yeah,
used to it. Now, I wouldn't say, I mean, to me, like, maybe spending all day on a boat or driving. I mean, if those are not necessarily natural environments, you might,
right.
I could see the benefit in, certainly if you're wanting to protect your eyes from other things like fishing hooks or whatever. But um, I would say it's a guideline. I wouldn't say it can never be broken,
Right.
but your eyes will get used to it. I mean, that's where that morning sun comes in,
Right.
as well as in that
Yeah.
healing and stuff. I mean, I've heard tons of people. Honestly, I used to be the same way. I have some really nice. I mean, I probably have $250 pair of sunglasses sitting in my drawer, and I
Mm.
kind of feel like I'd like to sell them to somebody, but I'm not sure if I should do that. I'd violate my conscience a little bit, but.
Oh man. Okay, so next question is, so we have a lot of homesteaders. Obviously, we're all trying to get, I mean, many of us have reached a point where we feel like we're really healthy and we're doing
Yep.
really healthy things, but a lot of us still have a lot of work to do.
Sure.
And so, what are your suggestions for just easy ones? Like, what are
Yep.
things that everyone can start doing right now, even just 5 suggestions,
Yeah.
to get their body back on track, to make significant change in their life, even if they get off this live stream and start today?
So I think fix your sleep. Make like that to me, like I heard a guy say this and it's true. Sleep is your superpower. So you've got to fix your sleep. So we're terrible, and me included, about getting up too late, staying up too late. And so do what the sun is doing. So up with the sun, down with the sun, get in bed early. Your sleep heals you, it restores you. I mean, it cleans your brain out, your lymphatic system, you get flushed during your sleep, fixes your immune system, your nervous system, anxiety is better. All those things are, I mean, huge. So sleep, I mean, and all these are going to be connected. So one, sleep. The second one that I do and I have people think about is heart rate variability. And this is a sign that your nervous system's working right. So I teach my patients about this and I almost make it a vital sign now. So, if you go to the doctor, they take your vital signs, your blood pressure, temperature, height, weight, and pulse and oxygen, and they write it all down. That's what everybody does. Well, I think heart rate variability should be another one. So research is pretty cool. So healthy heart rate variability is high. So you want a lot of variability in your heart rate between each beat. So we always think of like the EKG being just evenly spaced out, and that's good. Well, that's actually not good. Between each heartbeat, if you look at an EKG, the little wavy lines, that space between them should actually fluctuate. That's called heart rate variability. So you want high heart rate variability, and that's a sign of a good autonomic nervous system. And that actually is a predictor of all kind of health benefits. So you can literally check someone's heart rate variability and almost tell them how they feel based on that. So when we're anxious, we're stressed, we've got too much going on, we didn't sleep well, we didn't eat well, our heart rate variability goes down. If good things are happening, it goes up. And interestingly, I had a patient the other day who knew this, and she got a ring to, there's a bunch of things you can do at home to monitor this.
Huh.
I'm actually a big fan of sleep tracking devices.
Yeah.
I think in homesteading, we sort of be like, we look askance at technology and we just like, no, just give me a shovel and some dirt and I'm good to go. But I think there are simple technologies, if we use them carefully, we can really benefit from them. And one of the things that I tell my folks, get a sleep tracker. Like, for a couple $100, they make these rings, they make bands and stuff that will track your sleep, your heart rate variability, all these things. And so she brought me in her heart rate variability record, and we looked at it, and it was pretty good. I mean, she had some low ones, she had some good ones, and she had one that was super high. And I was like, that's amazing. Like, I think it was like 108, which is high if you know anything about it. And I said, what happened there? Did you get a really good night's sleep? Or she's like, no, like usually it's high if I go and garden, if I'm out, with my feet in the soil, which I was like, that's super cool. Your heart rate variability goes up. And he's like, yeah. She's like, my highest heart rate variability I ever got was when I stayed out partying with my friends. And I was like, no way. That's so cool. So to me, I've talked a little bit about that in my talks. I'll probably throw this picture of her HRV score up next time I talk, but it just showed the importance of being in a community of people that you love.
Right.
And so she's like, my heart rate variability was never that high. And, we even drank a couple drinks and stuff, which we always think is a bad thing. So sleep, and then using your heart rate variability to figure out what it is that your body responds well to. And so it's broadly speaking, it's a little bit of self-experimentation, right? So you can accomplish all that, pretty easy. And one of these days, maybe I'll endorse one of these products or something. But, and then, work on, obviously we're homesteaders, so work on eating seasonally, locally, as close to you as obviously organic, if you can figure out what that means, as close to home as you can. And I know that we're at a hotel for 6 days. We're not eating our home food right now. We're doing the best we can. So replace something non-optimal that you're doing with something better, and you can do that week to week. We say, okay, we're going to remove this sort of not great habit, but replace it with something else. And I don't care. Like, people say, well, I don't, have a lot of land, or I live in an apartment. And I say, that's cool. Like, get a pot and put a tomato in it or something like that, or find somebody who does farm near you and support them. So just sort of bring your sphere of food more locally as you possibly can. And if you're not going to be a farmer and you can't grow food, that's fine. Somebody probably close to you wants to. And so figure out a way to support them. I mean, really, you've got to do that, or they're going to go away. So let's see, that's 3 or 4 now. Maybe that's enough. Yeah, eat locally, seasonally, and fix your sleep. Are big ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to your profession, so you were talking about colleagues before. How has your transition from modern medicine into functional medicine and herbalism and all that, how has that kind of changed your social life? Has it at all changed your social life? Did you lose friends? I'm sure you've gained new ones. How did that work for you? Because obviously, that's kind of the trend for homesteaders. People didn't necessarily grow up in this way of living. And when they decided to change this way of living, their entire life changed. Their family members thought they were crazy, or they lost friends. So how did that look for you?
Yeah. I'm probably cut from a different cloth than some people. I just, I feel like, for me, to living consistently with my with my values, and I'm a Christian. I have certain values that are derived from that, and and as I probably from my upbringing and some intrinsic personality, I figured out somewhere along the line that, like the easy life is often not the good life.
Right.
And and it's all of those sort of maxims that we heard sort of growing up is, like hard choices, are better often. And yeah, so certainly on a professional level, um, I get regular feedback. I think my patients are kind, but I get regular feedback from some people that, in our community that are in medicine about me. It's not often favorable, but
Right.
sometimes it is. So like anything, I think you can go through life and sort of be all things to all people
Right.
and never necessarily stand for anything. Everybody can like you, but I think when it comes down to it, maybe you haven't necessarily lived a life of integrity when you do that. And so, I think you quickly find that when you take a stand, for something, take a position, then, I've just figured out, like, if you don't have any enemies, you probably haven't really taken a position on anything.
Right.
Um, and honestly, a lot of times those enemies are people that, probably do honestly have some amount of respect for you, even if they don't believe what you do. And
Hmm.
honestly, like, I have patients that come to me that, like, that hate almost everything about, like, on a, like, if like they don't have the same political beliefs I do, they don't have the same faith I do, they don't have the same values I do, but interestingly, they love what I bring to them. Like,
Right.
they know if they call the office, they're going to be treated with dignity and respect. We're going to be responsive. They trust me, which is so ironic to me. They trust me almost more than anybody else. But on paper, like, we have nothing in common. They would hate everything about me. We would never vote the same. Nothing. But they call my office because nobody else will help them.
Hmm.
Um, and and that feels good. But yeah, I've gotten some negative feedback from professionals in medicine, and
Of
which,
course.
now kind of makes me smile a little bit. Um, but honestly, the people that latch onto you when you
Right.
take a stand for something, like, they're closer than family to you. I am sure if anybody ever threatened our practice right now, there would be hell to pay. I'm
Right.
not, like, not because of, like, I'm gonna make, but, like, all I've done is step out in faith and stand up for the people in my community that are tired of being treated poorly by health professionals. And I said, look, I'll shut my practice down before I'm forced to do things that violate the conscience of me and my patients.
Right.
And they will give up a lot for you. So if you want to know who your people are, take a stand for them,
Hmm.
and support them. And I promise they will support you back. Um,
Absolutely.
so
Yep.
yeah, I've lost people who, you know, maybe they needed to go away anyway, but I've gained a lot of friends who, we're very tight knit now.
Yeah. You've found your people. That's what
Yep.
we found our little tribes of people that
Yep. Yep.
um, both nationally, internationally, and locally. And you've made a really big impact in your community. And bringing you into HOA, you've already made a super big impact in the homesteading community too, which is pretty
Good.
awesome.
Good.
Um, so, looking at the future, what do you see your practice doing? Are you good with where you are? Are you looking to do more? We've had some people ask, hey, does he do long distance memberships, or are you
Yeah.
just local? What does that look like for you?
Well, it's interesting because, I had to step away from social media for a little while. I just needed a break, but I've decided I'm not around it. I'm not into it as much, but a little bit. There's just so much, out there that, I feel like one particular story about health right now is being so heavily promoted, that we need to counter that a little bit. And I don't have to say a lot, but just say, hey, there's another story out there that if people want to look at, they can, so just invite people to say, look, smart, trustworthy people have been thinking about this for a long time, especially, here in the last year or two. And there is another story out there that has some validity to it. And if you want to hear it, it's out there. And so I've just decided, to do that a little bit and just say there, so anyway, I've actually had people calling me all over the country trying to get some help and advice because they just can't find somebody locally who will shoot them straight, it sounds like, or just, entertain the idea that there might be some other options than, the narrative that's out there for dealing with COVID or whatever. So yeah, I'm actually busy, mostly just coaching people and telling them what they can do. Again, at home, I mean, so much of, again, like people's health and dealing with COVID and stuff now, it's a great time to educate people and just say, look, there's a host, 18 months ago, I said, hey, there's this thing coming. We're not sure exactly what it is. It seems, it's a virus, but like any virus, get outside in the sun and get your vitamin D up. Don't stay inside your house and be, seclude yourself from the sunshine and the outdoors. Get outside and, and I still have patients that are like, man, I can't, we listened to you a year and a half ago, and, when we got sick, it was mild and we zipped on through it, and we just, it's again, back to that, what we were talking about earlier. It's just like, I don't have anything to gain by telling you to sit outside in the sunshine. Like, I'm not selling you a test or a shot or a medicine. I just want you to be well and to trust me. And if, and they did, a lot of them do. That's not a pat on the back to me. It's just like, look, I'm just telling you what I believe is true and what I've researched and what makes sense. Anyway, so I have a lot of people contacting me all over. I mean, literally from all over the world. I just got a message from somebody from Africa who's wanting to know about what they can do because they have a hard time. They're not sure if they want to get vaccines. So so I stay busy with that. And then anyways, so just balancing all that with doing a lot of national and local international consults and doing some speaking. It's sometimes easier to carefully educate, bigger groups of people at one time if we ever have the opportunity to do that. And then, getting ready for the HOA up there in October, and then baseball with the kids. And then we do, I have people all the time contacting me saying, we can't find a clinic like yours where we live. Do you have a recommendation? And I do have some colleagues around that that I can endorse that do a great job, different places. But I'd love to one day expand and maybe have some more clinics around. The trouble I honestly have is finding people who think like me. I mean, from a business aspect, it's pretty easy to do what I do, but finding doctors and stuff who will kind of ascribe to our way of doing medicine is not always easy. They're out there, but
and it's hard to find trustworthy people too, who aren't, you want to stay in control and find people who can, exactly what you said, do what you do. One quick question, if anybody has any questions, we have just a couple minutes left. Linda Graves is asking, do you have any experience with homeopathic medications? Have you heard that the FDA is trying to make the use of homeopathic medications and certain herbs illegal?
I have a little bit of experience with homeopathic medications. I am not a homeopath, so so I think some people don't like. I was even had to learn what that actually meant, and so like some people think I've actually been called a homeopathic doctor, and I'm not. I'm like homeopathy is a very specific kind of medicine dealing with kind of very minute quantities of cure, of remedies, which operate almost on an energetic level for healing, which I've actually seen very, very profound things work there. So, I mean, I'd say specifically in terms of homeopathy, I have a few things that I can and do recommend, but it's like a lot of things, you know, as a good family doctor, if it sort of gets outside my scope of expertise, which can happen,
Right.
I say go to a homeopath. Like I've got really good friends that are homeopaths and they're just out of this world homeopaths. So, and I learned from them, you know, I say, okay, what's the first couple things I can do for fever and some pain and, you know, everyone, arnica, all these other things. And so I've got, you know, 4 or 5 things in my basic toolkit for homeopathy. But honestly, if it gets beyond that, I have some homeopaths nearby. I would never
Right.
attempt to do what they do. They are just gifted at what they do, and they do it phenomenally. You know,
Yeah.
I've seen it work really well, and I understand enough about it to sort of explain it to my patients and have them. You know, it's really cool. Like if you look at they've done some experiments, which you know, they've taken bacteria and they've taken penicillin. And of course, we think of penicillin being antibiotic. And so we think in terms of this mechanical lock and key, like the penicillin has to hit the bacteria and do something to the surface to change it. Well, interestingly, I don't think it was on purpose, but they actually had bacteria separated from penicillin by a small glass or some sort of membrane. So the penicillin actually never touched the bacteria, but it was close to it. And the penicillin actually caused a reduction or a decrease in the bacteria on the other side of the glass by being near it. And kind of that makes sense. So everything has a
Right.
vibrational frequency, and so it's not necessarily nothing technically. I mean, on a molecular scale, never actually touches anyway. So the idea of homeopathy is the energetic frequency of a cure activates some particular healing mechanism in the body that, you know, responds to. So anyway, homeopaths are amazing. They do great work. I've taken homeopathic remedies many times, but I'm not a homeopath.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I knew we were going to get this. We have a lot of questions about like what do you do for arthritis, gallbladder,
Yeah.
which we could literally spend hours talking about
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
And so we'll probably bypass the health ones, but
Sure.
I do have someone who has a quick question. They said, what kind of tests do you recommend for testing liver health?
Well, honestly, I mean, you can do, and if you do like it's called a CMP or a BMP, a basic metabolic panel or a complete metabolic panel. Like at our clinic is a $10 test. So it tests a bunch of things: liver function, kidney function, some basic electrolytes and protein levels and nutritional things. But that's so AST, ALT, and then GGT can do it as well. Um, so those are 3 super easy, super cheap tests for you know, again, a blood analysis of liver function. There's other ways to do it. Ultrasound is super helpful for liver stuff too, if you suspect anything going on. $10 test, easy to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. Last question. How do we you probably don't have this answer. How do we find a list of doctors in our area? Essentially, what would you recommend people start looking for?
So the IFM, Institute for Functional Medicine, has a pretty updated list of practitioners that are going to be, you know, more along the lines of my thinking in terms of I would start there. The AAPS, so the American Academy of Physicians and Surgeons, you really need to check them out too. They're sort of a different. So their organization is an alternative to like the AMA or some of these more mainstream medical societies, and are much more, you know, patient-centered, libertarian approach to medicine. You know, price transparency, and so check out the AAPS. And I think they have, so if you AAPS members, direct primary care, search for them, search for IFM, so Institute of Functional Medicine. But you know, if you look at your doctor's website, you'll probably pretty quickly get a sense of at least what their thinking is.
Right.
And you know, obviously ask. I mean, good grief, there's a Facebook group for everything now. So
Yeah.
you know, I mean, So ask your neighbors or something like that. And I think what you want to be looking for is somebody who's not beholden to a particular and the thing that really I get all the time is like, well, I wish we'd come to you, but we have good insurance. And I was like, well, that's wonderful, but just know that your insurance company is dictating what is happening. Like they are telling the doctor what they're willing to pay for, what they won't pay for, and many times they're telling him what he can say, what he can't say. And so that does not come with no strings attached. It's really nice. I get it. But just like anything else we do, with the convenience comes a great cost, and it may not be a cost that you realize.
Yeah.
And so just be aware there's a lot of doctors out there, just like farmers, who are trying to make a living by keeping things simple and local and transparent. And we need to be careful about bypassing them because it's convenient or less expensive. It's very convenient to go to the local grocery store and get their chicken and their meat and their vegetables. But the farmer that's down the street that's trying to support his family by doing that is going to be more expensive and less convenient for you.
Right.
But if he goes away, same way if that doctor goes away, you're going to be sad.
Yep. Yeah, we had that experience when my oldest son was little. We had to quit going to the doctor because our insurance wouldn't let us go
Yep.
unless we got all of the vaccines
Yep.
that they recommended, and
Yeah.
so they
Yep.
just stopped seeing us. They wouldn't let us do it. So
Yep. And that's one of the reasons our practice is busy.
yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. All right, Theron. Well, thank
Yep.
you for joining
Welcome.
me.
Thank
It
you.
has been fun. I think we could talk a lot more about a lot more in-depth topics, and I want to catch you before you leave off
Okay.
this Zoom chat. But
Yep.
thank you guys for joining us. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments of this video. Not sure if we'll get to come back or not, but have a great day. And as always, happy homesteading.
Okay. See y'all.